Hello, star people. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Ascend the Matrix podcast. I'm your host, Chrys King. I'm a shamanic healer, psychic medium, astrologer, ascension guide, and creator of the Medicine Alchemist and Ascended Astrology. I assist awakened souls, light workers, and starseeds like yourself heal, connect with spirit and star beings, create 5D businesses, and ascend the false matrix. And this podcast will take you on a multi-dimensional journey through the world of shamanism, ascended astrology, UFOs and starseed contact, conspiracy theories, or should I say truths, and the multi-dimensional nature of reality, with the intention of bridging the gap between 3D and 5D so that we can ascend the matrix together. And today's guest is Etienne de la Boetie², founder of the Art of Liberty Foundation and editor of the Art of Liberty Daily News. And he's a leading voice on voluntaryism, government illegitimacy, and systemic corruption with work at artofliberty.org. He's the author of To See the Cage is to Leave It, exposing 25 psychological techniques governments and monopoly media use to control populations, and Government, the Biggest Scam in History Exposed, revealing intergenerational organized crime behind banking and politics. His upcoming book, Voluntaryism, explains how non-coercive systems can replace government entirely, and he's also investigated COVID-19, eugenics, and population control agendas. All right, thank you all so much again for joining me for Ascend the Matrix podcast. I'm so excited to have my guest on today. Please introduce yourself and explain your name for my audience.
Sure. Well,
I know I was just asking you about it, but I'd like you to share that explanation again because I really liked it.
So my nom de plume or nom de guerre, my pen name or my war name is Etienne de la Boétie². And the original Etienne de la Boétie was a French political philosopher. He wrote in the 16th century. And he's best known for a book called A Discourse on Voluntary Servitude, which was really the first book to expose the tricks and the techniques that rulers used, not just to get obedience, because obedience is kind of easy if you've got a gun or an army or a police force,
right?
But to get fealty and adoration and to get people to love their servitude and go along with having a ruling class and go along with getting tax farmed and God Save the Queen and all hail the
all
chief.
that.
And
the stuff that's going on right now.
Yes, we love being ruled.
Yes.
And so I took his pen name when I wrote my first book, Government, the Biggest Scam in History. Mm-hmm. My kids were in the government school system. I didn't want them to get any heat for what Dad was doing. And so I actually like there's hundreds and hundreds of people in the liberty movement and that know who what my real name is. So I'm not, I'm not, pretending. I use my real name when I go to events and everything.
Yeah.
I'm kind of stuck with the nom de plume because that's how, so now that, my kids are actually, one of them's about to graduate college. One of them's already graduated college. And so I could use my real name, but now everybody knows me as Etienne de la Boétie².
Yeah.
And so now it's just it would be confusing in the marketplace of ideas for me to transition to my real name. But I'm not. It's not because I'm scared of government. It's not. I just didn't want my kids to get for what Dad was. Dad was. Like one of the things I break down in the first book, Government, the Biggest Scam in History, is that the government school system is running game on the kids.
Yes.
And it's using a variety of unethically manipulative techniques, some of which produce obedience.
Yes.
Some of them which indoctrinate this hidden religion that we're going to talk about today called statism, which is the indoctrinated religious belief in having a government, the idea that government is legitimate.
Yeah.
Government is desirable. That government is necessary when there's no ironclad law of the universe. That government is legitimate, desirable, necessary. I argue that it's best thought of as a technique for robbing and controlling populations. Mm-hmm. But that's really the hidden curriculum in the mandatory government school. They're forcing kids to go to this school. The teachers don't really understand it, or they're willfully ignorant. A lot of them do, by the way. A lot of them do understand it. and they pretend they don't understand it, or they pretend to be willfully ignorant. But like, there's a hidden curriculum in the government school system. I was exposing it in the book. I didn't want my kids to get heat at school.
Got it. Yeah, I appreciate that explanation. And, this podcast is called Ascend the Matrix, and we want to talk about what's happening within the Matrix, but this is a pretty metaphysical podcast over here. So how metaphysically oriented are you? You like the way I put that?
Well, so I'm very, and so, a lot of the battle that I'm fighting, I believe, is a spiritual battle.
And that's sort of just what I wanted to tap in, because my audience is going to be really interested in this. However, my audience is also full of starseeds, light workers, healers, people who are dismantling the matrix in ways that are much more energetic and crystalline than the way other people are doing it. So I just wanted to check in about that, because I wasn't sure as well. But as we before we go any further, when it comes to your name, there is something very spiritual and metaphysical about having this name. When I saw the name, and I thought this was someone's name in history, is what I thought to myself. But then when I saw the 2 next to it, it almost gave me this impression of like, you're like I'm not saying you're a reincarnated version of him, but almost like your mission is a reincarnated version of his mission. And because they share such likeness, it's almost like you've resurrected his intention and are bringing it with the new technology we have, the new way of getting media out to people, and how important it is now, because you thought it was crucial for him to write about it hundreds of years ago. It's incredibly crucial now, because this is the pivotal point where the Illuminati, the matrix control systems, the elite have kicked it into high gear in ways that are almost unimaginable and technologically advanced as well, the mind control that they're doing. So now it's really time to get to the bottom of the ways in which they have programmed us. Not only, I have episodes where we've talked about how the Anunnaki mutated our DNA and made us very controllable on a cellular level. Now we want to talk about how are the government systems that seemingly aren't reptilian or Anunnaki, it just feels like our normal government, what has leaked in there or specifically been placed into those systems that are a direct extension of the false matrix control grid or the mind control mechanisms that they have been using on us for millennia. So share with me about your original book before we go into the new one that you've written, and share with us more in detail about what's happening and what you have uncovered.
So you're correct in that I took the Etienne de la Boétie's pen name because I'm doing his work in the modern age.
That's what it feels like. Yeah, it feels like he's also involved in it in some spiritual way.
He was exposing, techniques that in some cases were already 500 or thousands of years old.
Yeah.
That they were being used to control the population in the 1500s.
Yeah.
I'm exposing the modern playbook of techniques. And so the first book, Government, the Biggest Scam in History, I broke down 20 techniques in that book, and I showed what the technique looked like. I broke down the technique, and then I showed what it looked like in the United States, in Nazi Germany, in the Soviet Union, and in East Germany.
Wow.
And you can, on the same page with, like, there's a picture of, the mandatory government school system. It looks the exact same in Nazi Germany. It looked the exact same in the U.S. It looks the exact same in East
Well, can we sort of agree right now that it's probably the exact same, not only because the same elite is behind all of this, but the same mind control and I don't even want to call them extraterrestrial, like reptilians, for instance, have been here longer than we have. So I just mean other races who have been infiltrating and controlling humans for a long time. It's made its way all the way into our school systems, into every fabric of our healthcare, our government, and that sort of thing. But we don't often dissect or pinpoint the sort of logical, real-world ways in which they mind control or seduce us, is the word that just came to me, into being controllable and herdable. Okay. And that's what's really important, I feel, about your work, is that it's giving it some grounded terms. It's naming some of these things so we can identify it
Well, no,
and see it.
so in many ways, I'm exposing what that playbook is,
Mm-hmm.
and that the exact same playbook was used by Nazi Germany, was used by the Soviet Union, was used by East Germany, and I chose those countries because those are, considered to be, 100% evil,
Right, right.
countries. And so when you're
They made
flipping
really
through
good
that book,
examples as well to compare.
right, you're like, wait a minute, why is the U.S. government using the exact same tricks and techniques as the
Uh-huh.
Nazis and the Soviets and the East
Uh-huh.
Germans? I thought they were the bad guys, but we're doing the exact same thing here. And then that revelation of the pattern, that that a lot that brings people to that moment of insight of like, oh wow, the government is running game on me. They're trying to trick me. They're using these unethically manipulative techniques on me. And because nobody likes to get tricked, nobody likes to be a chump, nobody likes to get fooled, a lot of people, unless you're getting a government paycheck, you can't, it's hard to get a man to understand something when his salary depends upon his not understanding it.
Totally.
But most
Totally.
people, when they realize that the government is tricking them and running these unethically manipulative techniques on them, they're out. They're like, okay, I
Mm-hmm.
don't, I didn't get it. And so one of the other analogies I use a lot is, if you're, the magician can only fool the crowd until the crowd understands how the
The
magician does
tricks?
the trick.
Yes,
And
yes.
then once the crowd understands how the magician does the trick loses all the power.
Mm-hmm.
And so what
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing in my books is I'm showing everybody how the magician does the trick.
Yeah.
And then to a certain degree, you're free. You might not be free physically,
But
but you're free
mentally,
mentally. You're not,
totally.
you now understand what they're doing, how they're doing it. They're weaving it into the
It also
movies and the television
demystifies
shows.
it.
Yeah.
It makes you able to see it as a computer that can be hacked and a program that's running rather than this monstrous entity which the government sort of has become even on an astral level. I mean, the government has this entity behind it. And I would dare to venture, especially in my generation, I don't know anyone who trusts the government. And yes, I live in Mount Shasta and I'm surrounded by spiritual people all the time, but I have people in all walks of life. I don't know anyone, including my parents, who are quote unquote conservatives, who trust the government at all. They never have. They've told me since I was a child the government's not meant to be trusted. Even the Republican government, it's all corrupt. There's this sort of understanding amongst American people, even though they keep voting. There's this cognitive dissonance. But I think it's because so many people don't really know what they're doing. They think the government just wants your money. They don't realize they're actually mind controlling, seducing, manipulating on levels that are unethical and go against free will. So that, and if they knew
And
what
also,
was happening,
I have to tell you, a lot of people have become dependent upon the government, and
oh,
so
for sure.
part of the scam of the government was to get the population completely dependent. So, like
Yeah.
hijacking and everybody's retirement security
Yeah.
and taking that out of what would have been a private system where they had complete ownership of it and they could have
Right.
invested in gold and silver or whatever
Right.
they wanted, and they could have
Right.
done way better. And most private systems do way better and have way better returns than Social Security.
Yeah.
And now they're now dependent upon this, illogical, immoral, completely criminal, being run as a criminal enterprise system because they're dependent upon it for their life sustenance and their food and their retirement security, or
Yeah.
they're dependent upon it for their job if they're in the military, or they're a government school teacher, or they're an air traffic controller, or they work for Amtrak, or they work for the postal service, or they work like there's 2 million plus federal employees in the country, which is a lot of
Yeah.
people that are, and then there's their dependents are then dependent upon them. So they've created a system where the population is dependent, and if you're dependent, then you're willing to kind of look the other way on a lot of stuff. Just keep that check coming. I just
Yeah.
got to keep. I just need that
Yeah,
check to
absolutely. That's what
keep coming.
survival will do.
Yeah.
you know? So I want you to tell us a little bit about some of these techniques without giving away the book. I just want you to share with us some of examples that people could look for, some of the ones that may have surprised you the most, or that you thought, wow, I didn't realize this was going on when you uncovered all of this.
So in the first book, In Government, the Biggest Scam in History, I break down 20 techniques across these four different populations. In the new book, what I've really done is I've concentrated on 25 techniques that build a religiosity about the government. So the
I also love the
short
picture
version
of the
is, and I'll
book.
just give it away. I'm going to give it away right here to your audience. The government is using dozens of unethically manipulative techniques to indoctrinate the belief in having a government as a religion
Yeah.
into the population, so the population is religiously attached to the government, to
Yeah.
the idea of being American. They're not you're not a free and independent human being that just lives on this planet, because of, like you, just because you're born in Compton, you don't have to be a Crip. Just because you're born in East LA, you don't have to be a Blood.
Right.
Just because you're born in what they call the United States doesn't mean that you have to be an American. You're a free
Right.
and independent human
Right. I've
being.
always felt this way even as a child. I was like, I don't have to like America. My parents, my dad especially, coming from the military, Pledge of Allegiance, all the things I just didn't want to do. And I don't remember even knowing why. It just felt like not my choice is what it felt like.
Well, because
And
it had been decided for you. Like
yeah,
you
like
got shipped
many
off.
things.
Like, did so the number one technique so how do you do it? How do you slave up a population? How do you get them to semi-voluntarily hand over, a
Is this
portion
what
of
you
their
would call
income?
statism? Is that what statism is? Is this sort of religion around government
It is
and
the
being
indoctrinate
devoted?
statism is the indoctrinated belief in the legitimacy, the necessity, and the desirability of having a government in the first place, even though there is no ironclad law of the universe that says that you have to have a government or government's a good idea. And the reality is we'd all be dramatically wealthier and there'd be much more harmony in society if we didn't have a government. But the government is slipping this to the population as a religion. They don't call it a religion, but they're using the
But it
exact
functions the same way.
same unethically manipulative techniques that a disingenuous religion or a cult would
Yeah.
use on their followers to
Hmm.
get them to give them money, to get them to give them sexual favors, to get them to give them whatever the cult is,
Yep.
is
Yep.
about. If you understand behavioral psychology, and the CIA has been caught doing this in MK Ultra, and they were
Yep.
caught doing this in Jonestown, and they've been caught doing this in other things, they're focused on cult creation because
Hmm.
that's how you lead millions and millions of people, and that's how you're able to mind control people using the mass media. Hitler
Yeah.
used radio,
Hmm.
Trump uses, the people behind Trump use the television, uh,
And Twitter.
and the internet and Twitter and X, and we're going to put things into your feed. And
Yes.
so the short exclamation is that the number one technique is the mandatory government school, where they're going to take kids that before they're old enough to really evaluate the logic and the morality of, do we really need a government? Is a government a good idea? Am I really an American, or am I really a free and independent human being? And
Right.
they're going to put you into a mandatory government school that is the church of the religion.
Right.
The teacher is the priest, the president is the pope. They're going to teach, the teacher is going, the flag is the indoctrinated holy
That's
symbol.
right.
It's the golden calf.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're going to pray, vote. You're going to be encouraged to pray and vote. You're going
I
to go to
pledge
the
of
model
allegiance to the
UN and the
flag.
model
I
government.
saw the other day there was a flag outside of the grocery store, and this guy got out with his two sons, and they all stood there and started doing the Pledge of Allegiance,
Mhm.
and they looked like zombies, the
Yeah.
kids. And one part of me was like, "Don't judge them. that's just their beliefs. This is just, he could probably was in the military. It reminded me of my dad. And then this other part of me was like, I remembered, like, they looked so like they would die for their country at 8 years old,
Yeah.
right in the middle of this parking lot. And I thought, oh my gosh, for some reason, this is not rubbing me the right way. As much as I'm trying not to judge it, there's something, what rubbed me the wrong way about it was the allegiance to just, they don't even know what they're pledging their allegiance to. That's a spell that they're giving their energy to constantly.
So the Pledge of Allegiance is the common prayer of the religion. The Constitution is the holy document.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent of the Bible or the Quran.
Well,
Or
these
the
people out
Torah.
here act that way. They act as if these things are hell and heaven dependent.
No,
Okay.
they literally go to Washington D.C., which is the equivalent of Mecca.
It totally
And they go
is.
and they look at the religious artifacts behind bulletproof glass, encased in helium, like other religious artifacts and religious.
Yes, like at the Vatican or
It's
something.
like it's at the Vatican. Well,
Yeah.
so the Capitol is a carbon copy of the Vatican.
Totally it is.
And so these are, this is how the religion is expressed in the United States.
Well, that's what
A
I
lot of
said to you earlier was the picture of your book I found striking, the new one. It was like you turned the Capitol building into a cage, and it was, it sort of like summed up what the book was going to be about to begin with, but it started immediately making me realize they're not just doing this with the doctrines, they're doing it with not sculpture, these structures they're building, the way in which they're building it all correlates to this idea of hierarchy and reptilian or archontic control. The way that things are architected inside of churches are similar to the way they're built and designed inside of these government buildings. So even on a physical level, what we're describing is externally and physically and structurally what's happening. And then what you're bringing in is exactly the methods in which they're executing the plan
It's the
directly
playbook.
to us. Yeah.
They're running a playbook, and all of the governments on
This
planet-
playbook must work,
Oh,
or they would not
it
be
is.
using it.
Well, it's funny because the original, I mentioned the original Etienne de la Boétie, who wrote in the 1500s. A lot of these techniques were at that time hundreds or thousands of years old. They're still running some of the techniques that Boetie described in the 1500s. They're running modern versions of them today.
Yeah.
And so, you go with what works. Now they've been, a lot of them have been polished and honed for the modern age. They didn't have the jet flyover in the 1500s. They didn't have, product placement on television and movies.
MK Ultra mind control. I mean,
they
just
didn't have
the
subliminal
level.
text.
Totally.
That they were putting subliminal messages into television programming the way that they're doing today. They didn't have, there's a lot of things that are modern, but a lot of them, go back to, to debase the country, to debilitate the country. Boetie, the original Boetie, he wrote about them, instituting brothels and games and circus games. And so today, pubs and brothels. And so you've got the country is, they're weaving. You cannot watch a Hollywood movie without the movie selling you the idea that everybody drinks alcohol.
Totally.
I've been keeping track. I've not seen a movie in year. I've been, trying to keep track for over a year now. I've not seen a movie where alcohol is not normalized.
Also on television too, reality TV, half of what we're seeing on reality TV is induced by alcohol and maybe other things, but we see them drinking the alcohol freely right on camera before they're all getting in fights with each other and stuff. It's incessant.
They're doing it on the news. I was getting my hair cut a couple of years ago. I'm getting my hair cut, and I was during the day, and I'm in the. I was getting my hair cut. There had like Good Morning America. It was either it was one of the morning shows, and the two women on the morning show drink wine in the morning,
In the morning.
and I'm
Uh,
sitting there, and I honestly, even I, who understands what's going on, even I was shocked at it
yeah.
that they're
Yeah.
normalizing drinking wine in the morning on one of the major network television shows where the hosts are drinking wine in the morning.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
And so these are the same debilitating techniques that were being run in, thousands of years ago. And now we've got, the CIA, selling crack and
Oh
putting
yeah, the
crack in.
CIA. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So
We
it's,
need
so
a whole episode on that.
they're still debilitating the population the same way that the ancients were doing it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if are you familiar with the term the little people?
No.
So you never heard anybody say, "Oh, the little people," or like the little people do this in an organization, or something
I
like that.
have heard
There's
that, but yeah. Yeah, actually.
the term "the little people" comes from in medieval times. The aristocracy was
I
keeping their
see.
population malnourished, and
Oh
they could only
God.
get certain grains and specific kinds of foods,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so they were keeping them artificially poor, and they were doing confiscatory taxation, and
That
they were.
sounds like um that sounds not too far off from what's currently happening. It's just now it's just more intelligent and complex, okay? And much more colorful
It's a
too.
different. So the population is being purposefully malnourished. They're putting things into the food supply, whether it's glyphosated wheat or atrazine. But back then,
Yeah.
it was a nutritional deficiency that produced that the serfs were physically smaller than the aristocracy. The
Yeah, to almost make
aristocracy.
them believe there's a difference between us.
There
Like even
was a
on a
difference. It
physical,
was a physical. Like if you
but
look at
almost to make
the.
them feel like it's biologically natural almost, like just to create it's like racism. It's like to create these separate things that seem so obvious but really aren't natural to be separate. And so it's like they're taking ideas and making them new again using technology and using the current modern framework that we have. And so we're almost left defenseless to it at times, wouldn't you say?
Well,
Because we
no. Well,
don't know it's
you know what?
happening.
So knowledge is power, and so I like kind of the good news message, or like some of the good news messages in the book is millions and millions of people have taken their kids out of the government school system. You're in Mount Shasta. I'm sure you know the work of David Rodriguez, who lives
Hmm.
in Mount Shasta,
Hmm.
who runs the Gatto Project
Hmm.
and Valor Academy, where he'll get he'll speed graduate the kids right out of the government school system. And
Love it.
so there's people that are getting they're getting accelerated graduation so they can get their kids out of the government school system. They're
Love
pulling them
that.
out and homeschooling them. They're
Yeah.
putting them into micro schools. They're putting them into Acton academies. They're putting them in. So there's new, educational business models.
I know
And
people
so
who
there's
did not.
millions and millions of people that are pulling their kids out of the system. There's millions of people that aren't drinking the fluoridated water. There's millions of people that aren't giving their kids the mercury and aluminum
You're
laced
right.
vaccines.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
so you actually can not be a victim I'm not doom and gloom. I'm actually an optimist. I think we win this
Yeah.
thing in the end
Absolutely.
because you
I'm on the
can
same page.
again you can only be kept in a cage that you cannot see, and once you understand how the magician does the trick, you don't get fooled by the trick. And so that's what I'm really trying to do with government, the biggest scam in history, and to see the cages to leave it, is
Yeah.
show people how the magician does the trick, and then they're free.
They can
And they
decide
may
for
not be
themselves from
free
that point.
physically in the sense that the government might still come take your house if you don't pay your taxes, and they pull you over if you don't have the license plate, but at least you understand what the tricks are, what they're
Yeah.
doing, how they're doing it in the media, how they're doing it in the school system, how they're doing it, and now you can steer your kids away from it, or your family members away from it, or you show it up to them, and so now they can dodge it and weave
Yeah.
it, and that is accelerating, and that's only going in one direction. We call it at the Art of Liberty Foundation, we call that the one-way revolution, because
Mm-hmm.
once you realize that the government is running game on you, kind of a pimp game on you, nobody
Mm-hmm.
likes to get tricked, nobody likes to
Right.
get fooled, nobody likes to get trumped, and then they're out. And so that's really what we're doing. And that one-way revolution, nobody goes back. Nobody goes back and goes, yeah, the government was running pimp game on me and tricking me, and they've been taking half my income in overt taxes, covert taxes, and inflation, but I'll give them another
I
chance.
know. I know. There's a lot of that going on, and it feels easy to give your power away to religion and government. And there's a lot of people I know who don't want to think for themselves. They really are okay being fed their water and their food in their bowl inside their cage and have their hamster wheel. I let them have that. That is where they are in their process.
I do too, and they're victims. I mean, so it's a multi-generational, it's $1 trillion propaganda system. It is the
Hmm.
monopolization of the media. So it's without giving the book away, I'll go ahead and just tell you, it's the bankers at the top. The banks create
And
money out of
the
thin air using a technique called fractional reserve banking. When you
yeah,
go to a bank to get a mortgage, they're not lending you depositor money. They just, credit your account with digital dollars,
yeah,
and so you spend the rest of your life paying interest on a loan that they created out of thin air, and you
yeah.
might pay 2 to 3 times the interest. And if you can't pay, if you pay 29 years, and on the last year of the mortgage, for whatever reason you get sick, or something befalls you or whatever, and you can't pay, then they steal that real asset and they resell it, and they own it. And so that system, that's they the number first thing they did with the astronomical profits, and I'm putting profits in air quotes because it's really being stolen. They're stealing the value at everybody else's money. That system is inherently inflationary.
Yeah.
And when the banks create all of this money out of thin air, it reduces the purchasing power of the dollars that everyone else has earned and saved. So they're
Yeah.
stealing the value out of everybody's money, the same as if they stuck their hand in your pocket and picked your pocket. They're just doing it in a way that most people don't understand, and that the mandatory
It's
government
like a
school
magician.
is not
Like when
going.
a
It is a
magician has your
magician.
wallet in their hand and you didn't even realize it,
You didn't
you
even
know?
realize it,
It's
and
like
they're
this change of hands thing that's happening. And also, I want to bring up a couple things. From my understanding, and when I tap in psychically to the banking systems and what's at the top, I don't see human entities. And so when it comes to the bankers, if the bankers are owning everything and the bankers are part of the 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati and it's all a reptilian program, why would we expect anything else from these bankers other than some type of extreme siphoning hierarchical program? So I just have to say that for the people listening who understand about the banking, what you're talking about sounds correct from that perspective. It sounds like, of course, they would do that. That is their modus operandi, is to invert and to steal and to siphon because they can't create their own energy. So they have to use other people's, including money, which is a construct that was created by them. It's like they've created this game or they've designed a game that we all get to create for them. And so they have to mind control us so that we keep creating it the way in which they want it so that they can harvest the energy that they need. You also
well,
used the word.
it's a slave system,
It
and
sure is.
they're what they're doing is they're tax farming humanity. And so the dollar is in some ways an energy system. It collects the energy that you use to create it,
Yeah.
and it represents your own personal energy and your own personal creativeness and your own ability and it sits in energy so that you can exchange it with other people for what they create and their skills and their labor and everything like that.
Yeah. Yes.
And so if you're
Talk about
stealing
siphoning.
half of it, and by the way, in the United States, if you live in the United States, okay, they're taking over half your income.
Hmm.
Now most people are like, no, they only take 26%, or they only
Which is
take
still
no. I
too
mean,
much.
So what most people never ever give a second thought to is the federal income tax is only one tax that they end up paying. And there are dozens and dozens of hidden taxes that when you add it up, plus inflation is the biggest hidden tax of all, the stealing of value
Right.
out of the money.
Right.
Absent this crooked monetary system, your dollar should buy more and more and more every single year
It
as
should increase in
productivity
value.
improvements and as innovations reduce the cost of creating or distributing the luxuries and necessities of life. So your dollar should buy more and more, but instead it buys less and less. People have gotten accustomed to the fact that, oh, money just loses value, when absent this crooked monetary system, we should all be crazy wealthy. But
Right.
going back to the hidden taxes, whether you're buying a gallon of gasoline, whether you're buying a beer in a tavern, whether you're
You're
paying for,
taxed.
you're getting taxed, and you're paying it when you pay your cell phone bill, you're paying it when you pay your cable TV bill, you're paying it when you get a rental car, you're paying it when you get a hotel room, you're paying it to Airbnb, you're paying it. I got a airline ticket a couple of years ago. I use this example a lot. It was a ticket to London, and the ticket was $1,200. The ticket itself was $400, and it was $800 in taxes and landing fees and
All that,
fuel
yeah.
surcharge.
Sounds like
And
Airbnb.
yeah, it was unbelievable how much
Yeah.
tax was involved, sales tax, and we haven't even touched on the estate tax,
I
and
know.
and in Europe they have the VAT, and so and now we have the tariff, and so the tariff is a tax
Yeah.
that is easily collected from the importer, but you're paying the tariff.
You have to pay. Yeah. It has to come from somewhere.
It has to come from somewhere,
Yeah.
and
Because they're definitely not going to pull it from them. Okay.
right.
It's
And
only
the
going to come from
corporation,
us.
I guarantee you, the corporation is passing it on to you.
Yes, in
They're
some
not
way.
eating the cost of the tax
Or
at
they're
all,
firing people.
at all.
They're reducing jobs. There's all kinds of ways in which they're secretly and we're not visibly seeing how it is still operating. And one of the things that just came up for me that I want to touch on with you is, how do you feel about cryptocurrency and where we're headed with all of that? I have a lot of people, spiritual people, who are really into crypto because, just like AI bots, if you are coming at it with a certain intention, I believe it's going to feed that back to you. But and in some ways, crypto to me feels very like where we're heading, money out of thin air. It's like we get to take our power back in certain ways. But just like every other system, there's infiltration, there's influence. So tell me, how do you feel about cryptocurrency? And
I'm pro crypto. I'm somewhat anti Bitcoin in the sense that I think that
we're on the same page.
So I think that Bitcoin was a product of the NSA, the National
Uh-huh.
Security Agency.
Oh, yes.
And so
That's why it's the biggest one.
well, so for your audience that's not familiar with the NSA is the group it's the intelligence agency within the government that does electronics eavesdropping and
Yep.
does cryptography, cracking of enemy codes, cracking
Yeah.
of foreign codes. And over a decade before Satoshi Nakamoto allegedly released his white paper, the NSA published an internal white paper called How to Make a Mint, the Cryptography of Anonymous Electronic Cash, that has since been declassified. You can go and
Read
get
it
it
right
at
now.
archive.org. You
Yeah.
can get it at MIT's website. It's called How to Make a Mint, the Cryptography of Anonymous Digital Cash, where the NSA outlined essentially the blockchain and the wallet and the whole thing over a decade before Satoshi releases this white paper. And the other thing that I find interesting about Bitcoin is that Bitcoin was essentially broken. And so it's funny because I was a very early investor in Bitcoin. I was in Bitcoin in 2015.
Hmm.
I had an Airbitz wallet. I started buying Bitcoin at $230 a coin. And as
Hmm.
I educated myself on crypto, I'm like, well, Bitcoin sucks. Like if you,
Yeah.
so, there's sort of, so one of the, good things about crypto is there's a free market in money. And
Yeah.
so there's other competing
Altcoins.
cryptocurrencies that have much better monetary features than Bitcoin. They have lower
Yes.
transaction costs, they're faster, they have more capabilities in the blockchain. They don't have a public blockchain that can be data mined by the government so that you can be taxed and traced.
Right. Right.
They have anonymity, they have things that
And
obscure the
that's what we
destination
love about
address.
the cryptocurrency world. There's something about it we really love. There's energies around it, of course, in this dual reality that are going to show up that could cause a problem or could be used in negative ways or could trap people into something. But because there's so much of it being done without governmental control and regulation, there's a sense of sovereignty or a sense of taking your power back by not just having cryptocurrency and spending it, but almost like I know people who've invested a little bit. They've made 300,000 in cryptocurrency and they've put in a total of 40,000 or something like that. There's this manifesting money out of thin air thing, but also so many people are not aware of cryptocurrency or it's almost as if it's some fad that's going to go away for people when it's not. And I feel like it's so complicated, no one knows where to start. And there's no offering from any government system that says, let's help you learn about cryptocurrency and master this whole blockchain and getting a wallet and your little USB and all your little codes you have to write down. It's a
Yeah, there
lot.
is. And that system is we're going to let some people, these early adopters, make a lot of money to get people interested
Into
in
it.
crypto
Ugh.
so that we can get them onto the coin that we choose that
Yes,
does
that we
not
can fully
so
monitor.
that we can fully monitor and track because it's a public blockchain. So they can do what's called chain analysis, and chain analysis is the ability that once they're able to, they know they can associate your name with your wallet because your name is associated through your cell phone that the wallet resides on, through your internet traffic, through if you have a custodial wallet at Coinbase or a different exchange, then you're doing KYC and that your name is associated with that. Then they can go and do chain analysis on the blockchain, and they know exactly how much money you have. They know
Yep.
exactly how much you've spent. They know who you've spent it with. They know every single nickel, and it's in an immutable ledger.
Yeah.
And so what I believe they did is they pumped up a coin that sucked. And the reason that they didn't is they didn't want it to threaten the dollar system immediately.
Right.
They didn't want it to actually be, have low fees. So they broke it. And I break that down in Government, the Biggest Scam in History, how the core
Oh,
development
awesome.
team was hijacked away by AXA, whose leader is the head of the Bilderberg Group, but they scooped up the core development team. They gave them, plenty of money, and they essentially kept the block sizes small, which kept the transaction fees high and kept the transaction speeds low,
Yeah.
so that Bitcoin was never able to be used as electronic cash.
Hmm.
The fees were too high, and the settlement time was too slow. So you can't go into a super or like a coffee shop, and the proprietor is not going to sit there for 15 minutes before the transaction clears, which is what Bitcoin, some Bitcoin transactions are taking
I know.
15-20 minutes.
Yeah.
And so what they did is in many ways, they stole the oxygen out of competing systems by making trading what should have been digital cash and turning it into digital gold. And so it didn't threaten the dollar system immediately. And then they stole the oxygen out of competing projects by funneling all of this bankster money into the coin. And so that there's all this excitement around the coin that can be surveilled, that can run chain analysis on it, that doesn't have any privacy features, that doesn't have any anonymity, that is too slow to actually threaten the dollar system, that's too slow to threaten PayPal, that costs too much to threaten PayPal, that costs too much to threaten the dollar system. They built all the excitement around the shittiest coin imaginable in many ways. In some cases, it's got great security. There's a lot of good things
benefits to it.
about
Yeah.
Bitcoin, and it is the most secure, and it's the most tested, and it's got name brand reputation.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is the government's compliance coin. It is the one that they can track and trace and tax.
Well, just like any other system that could possibly help us ascend or tap out or take our power back, they found their way there. Like here in Mount Shasta, it's full of spiritual people and vortices and crystal grids and medicine wheels. And just on the other side of the mountain is a deep, I think it's a deep underground military base and a whole artificial frequency technology, because they want to set those types of things up at these huge sacred sites like a Mount Shasta or Mount Boetie², Mount Kilauea in Hawaii, these huge vortex points where the energy and ley lines meet. And so it's almost like they want to be there when you walk in the crypto door. They want Bitcoin to be there, because I almost feel psychically like they're pushing us in that direction, but we're not getting any information about it, so that when we have to use cryptocurrency, we're fully ignorant to the way it all works, so we just do what they tell us to do. We just get the coin they tell us to do. We just get the card they tell us to get. We just scan our fingerprints or our palm or whatever we have to do. And there's just, again, a herding technique that's happening there. It just takes conversations like this for people to understand when you walk in that crypto door, there are other options, altcoins, other systems, and you need to learn it because it is complex. All these things that I have, these ledgers and all these phrases you have to write down, that made me go, oh my God, I just want a cave with some gold in it. I just want a vault with some gold in it. What is all this? Cryptocurrency. But the invisibility of the currency, the non-tangibility of it is what makes it the future, because we need to master something that isn't physical where we're going and be able to agree upon it in this way, because that's going to cause an evolution, in my opinion. Now, I want to switch just a little bit because we're running short on time. I want to make sure that I ask you about this. And it was sort of a Freudian slip, but you said a phrase earlier like it trumps it all or something like that. Okay. So I just want to ask your opinion, since we're talking about government and all this buffoonery. What do you feel about our current American president? And I'm not political, really. I just like to have a conversation about what this person's role is in all this and what people think about this interesting character, because I have a very specific opinion that is neither good or really bad. I kind of see it for what I feel it is, but tell me what you feel is going on right now in our government with this current presidency, and anything you have to say about that. I'm curious.
Sure. So Donald Trump is a money laundering casino owner. So there's an organized it's an organized crime system. The funny ha-ha of his television show, The Apprentice, was he was the apprentice. So can we give Trump the media training and the artificial gravitas? Can we make him look like a successful businessman, even though he'd gone bankrupt 4 times? So many times. And not only...
Look, he's got a big building in Chicago with his name on it. What do you mean he's not successful? There's gold toilets.
George Soros helped finance that for him.
But the gold toilets, though, that's what they're going to say, okay?
So what a lot of people don't realize is that in his last bankruptcy, I think it was 1993, his workout... a workout is when an investment bank comes in and restructures your debt, provides new financing. And so his workout was done by Rothschild Incorporated.
Oh my God.
And the banker, the lead banker that actually, managed the whole workout and the restructuring and provided fresh capital and everything, was a guy named Wilbur Ross, who ended up being the Secretary of Commerce in the first Trump administration. And so I think they've had Trump by the short hairs ever since
yeah.
they transferred him out.
Yeah.
Now he's very entertaining and he's very charismatic, and so I think they recognize that. And the apprentice is, we're going to give him some media training, and we're going to make him look like a successful businessman to the people that don't really understand what's going on, that have never looked into his background, that have no idea who Rothschild Incorporated is, who have no idea that he's gone bankrupt 4 other times, that have no idea that we're literally like holding this guy up, and if we weren't providing him this financing, he would be destitute, and $3 billion. He was at one point, he was like $3 billion underwater.
Yeah.
And so that's who Trump is.
And do you feel that he's like just a perfect representation of the fact, like, for me, ever since it happened, ever since 2016, is that when he was originally elected?
Yes, his first term was in
2016.
Yeah.
Like the whole Biden presidency, I was like, Joe Biden's our president? Okay. So I stopped really paying attention to it all when Trump became president. And I looked at that as a gift. I looked at him as helping me fully wake up at that back then to something. And so there was a gift that he brought, but I just want people to understand that, we've got a lot of, in the spiritual community, there is a sector of people who are so close. They're so close to the truth. They understand the reptilian control and what's happening in the Vatican and everything, and they're called QAnon or something. And they believe that Trump is going to save them from all that. So you've just got you've got people who are almost there to the truth, and then they're placing him as the savior. And so we've got a lot of people still who are very confused by this whole Trump thing, or feel like it's us moving in the opposite direction. And I feel like if you're really going to take a system down, put someone like Trump in the president's seat, make everyone divide, and also make the entire world not trust us. But also, we should not be trusting our government and putting a reality TV show clown, which he sort of can be and does on purpose. He has Leo rising, Gemini sun. He's got a jokester / a jester energy, okay? There's also a little bit of a king energy, but he plays the jester a lot. And people are not even seeing the clear archetype there that is playing out. And it's, for me, helped so much in getting millions of people on board with the idea that the government is full of shit and we need to be doing something different. And I feel like that's what he brought. But the idea that he is going to save us from the reptilians, or he's secretly on our side, when I tap into it, I don't see that. I see him being at the satanic rituals, going to the parties on Epstein Island, doing all the things that he has been doing since the 70s and 80s. So for people to be, for people to see him as a buffoon, but not see him for what he truly is and all the things that he's done, is bizarre to me. And then when people start saying he's a predator, he's hurt children, and I'm like, you have to understand, so did Hillary, so did George H.W. Bush, who was a full-blooded reptilian. Why are you all not understanding that the entire government is built on this and is initiated by these bloodlines and that sort of thing? And your work is much more accessible, like my father, for instance. He could read your book and be like, I am so into this. If you brought up too many reptilian, alpha draconian words, he might check out. Okay? So I feel like, I'm bringing in some galactic information here, but your information really is giving us the playbook to identify the playbook, is what it felt like to me
Right. I don't cover reptilians. I don't cover the Anunnaki. I've looked
Right.
into those issues and I'm somewhat open-minded to it. But
Yeah.
my running joke is if it is aliens or reptilians, it's organized crime aliens.
It
Because
is
what's
specifically.
going on, what's happening is it's an organized crime system, and they're using unethically manipulative techniques to get the population to go along with it. They're
Yeah.
stealing the value out of people's money.
Yeah.
They're tricking them into paying confiscatory taxation. They're tricking them into thinking that they actually owe it, and
Yeah.
it's noble to pay
Hmm.
taxes because that's the price of civilization. And they're indoctrinating the population with a belief system that tricks and chumps them so that they can be tax farmed and they can be robbed.
Yeah.
With respect to Trump, most human beings are very tribal. We've got tribal past, and so there's in psychology it's known as evolutionary. What is it? Evolutionary. I'm having a brain lock on the specific psychological term, but most people are hardwired because it was an evolutionary advantage to have a strong leader. Most people are biologically predisposed to have a strong leader.
Yeah.
And so what the government system, this organized crime system does is give them a fake choice between government leader, the blue government leader and the red government leader. The red government leader is designed to appeal to rural conservatives. The
Right.
blue government leader is designed to appeal to urban liberals.
Yes.
And they're controlling both government leaders. So it's a fake wrestling match, which is kind of
Totally.
funny since Trump was a worldwide wrestling figure.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of people don't know this, but Trump's theatrical agent is a guy named Ari Emanuel. Okay, and so that theatrical agent that represented him through The Apprentice and the Worldwide Wrestling and everything like that is a guy named Ari Emanuel, and he's the brother of Rahm Emanuel. Rahm
Oh my
Emanuel
God.
staff
I lived in
for
Chicago
Barack
when he was.
Obama. He's the mayor. He was the mayor of
Yeah.
Chicago. He's the guy that famously says you never want to let a crisis to go to waste because a crisis is an opportunity to do something that you couldn't do in any other circumstance.
Hmm.
And the third brother is a guy named Ezekiel Emanuel. And Ezekiel Emanuel is probably one of the most famous eugenicists who
Oh my
believes the
God.
world's overpopulated. He was part of Biden's COVID-19 task force. He thinks
Yeah.
everybody should die at the
Totally.
age of 75, and if they're not dead by 75, they should kill themselves. And
Yeah.
it's
Oh
so
my God.
so this is who is the system behind Trump, and that they're pretending to let us elect them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let me say that again. They are pretending to let the population elect them, and then they're saying, "Well, you voted for him, even if you didn't, even if you disagree with
And now
everything
it's
they
our fault
did."
again.
Right, you're just going to have to vote harder. So it's a no. They've got everybody playing a no-win
Yeah.
game. Okay,
Yeah.
that they can never win. You can never vote your way out of it. You can never vote harder. The
Yeah.
whole system is illegitimate on its face.
Yes.
And they're getting away with it because they're controlling the information that the population receives around the necessity, the desirability, the legitimacy of having a government through the mandatory government schools, through the rip-off college, the government rip-off colleges and universities, and through this monopoly media system, which I break down in the book,
Hmm.
where you've got a small handful of companies, 6 companies on the old media side, the newspapers, the radio stations, the television stations, the cable networks, the satellite broadcast networks. On the old media side, you've got 6 companies running hundreds and
Hmm.
hundreds of subsidiaries, different names, different logos, but all the ownership rolls up to a small handful of companies
Right.
operating as a cartel. And then on the new media company side, on the internet streaming side, search engines, AI, you've got probably 4 to 5 dozen companies that have been overfunded to dominate, social media or search or
Yeah.
AI
Hmm.
or
I always wondered when I was younger why those companies, why there's billions of people, but only that one made it onto the shelf, or that one made it into the ad, that one made it into my, at the beginning of this movie. I didn't understand. I used to wonder that even as a kid. Was
well,
they
let me
felt
tell you the
purposeful?
answer. So the internet was a military network. It was developed by the Advanced Research Project Agency. The Advanced Research Project Agency became DARPA, the Defense
Oh
Advanced
God.
Research Project Agency, and they had the internet for decades before they released the internet to the public, kind of right around 1996ish, is where people began to get, internet access. So
Yeah.
they opened up, I forgot the exact, year that they opened up the internet to just, regular people being able to connect in and send email and connect, to other servers over the network. But by the time they opened it up to the public, they had already they'd already war gamed it. They'd already, had the world's leading, futurists and the world's leading cultural anthropologists and the world's leading everybody. They already knew how the internet was going to develop. They already knew that there was going to be
Yeah.
retail and people were going to be buying things on the internet. They already knew that there was going to be social media. They already knew that there was going to be search and search was going to be important. And so all they have to do is place their bets, okay, with the unlimited capital that they have, is they have to pick the winners. And then they gave a small handful of companies, Facebook, Google, others, they gave them a head start. They gave them unlimited capital. They gave them patent protection. They gave them a whole bunch of things. They cheat, okay? And they ensured that those companies would be the ones to dominate their little corner of the information world so that they would be able to control eyeballs algorithmically. So they
Yeah.
would be able to control the information that people see
Hmm.
algorithmically
Hmm.
on these controlled platforms
Yeah.
where they provided unlimited capital, patent protection, a head start, and other, other ways, shapes, and forms, partnerships with cartel companies, advertising deals, you name it. And that's how they were able to dominate and these platforms and the competitors of these other platforms, they never had a chance because they never had the head start. They never had the unlimited capital. They have, they're facing, patent issues where they're unable to duplicate certain aspects of Facebook's, capabilities or
Yeah.
YouTube's capabilities or Google's capabilities because they've been given intellectual property protections or whatever it is. And so that's how it's amazing what you can do when you have unlimited money and you're cheating and you're taking technology that was developed on the taxpayer nickel and then you're releasing it into the population where you're privatizing the profits for this organized crime system, for this organized crime cartel. And so that's how they did it.
Yeah. And, for those listening who are, you know, kind of had the same experiences that I've had with shapeshifters and things like that, and had to come to the conclusion or had to face what was actually happening at the top, regardless of where it's coming from, it's very organized, it's very intentional, and it is also technologically advanced. The Alpha Draconians, very technologically advanced, not heart centered at all. So, whether we know where it's coming from or not, I appreciate you doing this work and bringing us the naming the techniques and the ways and really calling out the playbook for us so people can really move back into a state of sovereignty and choose. You know, if you choose to say stay in the hamster cage after you realize it's a cage, that is again your choice. It's about choice and really honoring our free will at the end of the day and really taking our power back as a collective, but as also as individuals. So your work is really important, and I appreciate you doing that. Can you share with my audience where we can find you, like your websites or your YouTube, where we can find you and how people can connect with you?
Sure. My organization is called the Art of Liberty Foundation. We're a startup public policy organization, a kind of think tank, and we're looking at socioeconomic issues from a principled, voluntarist perspective. That government is illegitimate, it's immoral, it's illogical, it's the worst way to organize society. And then on the other side of the ledger, whether you believe in having a government or not having a government, we're making the case that what's going on, that the government today in Washington, D.C. is being run as a criminal enterprise.
Yeah.
You can follow the money. You can watch, trillions of dollars with a T being slid out the back door through quote unquote bailouts to banks, to stimulus, through mandatory vaccines for big pharma, to agricultural subsidies, to ethanol, to a gazillion different scams, for overpriced weapon systems to fight wars based on lies and manufactured intelligence.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to put some meat on the bone and really look at the problem as intergenerational organized crime. And so that's what sets us apart. We're at artofliberty.org. My book, Government, the Biggest Scam in History Exposed, is at government-scam.com. My new book, To See the Cage is to Leave It, that really breaks down the religiosity of it, is at seethecage.com. And you can get a lot of my writings for free at artofliberty.substack.com, where we also run a daily news service and the Newswire, where we syndicate the best of the alternative media. And we've got a weekly newsletter called 5 Meme Friday that has the funniest memes in the Liberty movement. And so that's
bringing some humor into it.
We're putting some humor into it, and there's a reason why the Pentagon studies memetic warfare, because a good meme is like a Molotov cocktail through the Overton window, and so we produce some of those ourselves.
Awesome.
And you can get that at artofliberty.org.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put all these links in the show notes below so people can just click on them. Please, everyone, go check out these books. I'm going to get them as well. I was very resonant with the newest one. I felt very drawn to that one, so I highly recommend everyone going to the links, checking it out, and really asking yourselves what kind of world you want to live in, how much power you're giving to the government, how much do you care about your own free will and sovereignty? And thank you for continuing the work that has been going on for several centuries in this lifetime. And thank you for also being brave enough to step out of this sort of matrix and this governmental control and to use your voice in this way. I really appreciate you and your time, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for what you're doing. 1,000 flowers are blooming. That's why we're going to win this thing in the end. They can't stop us all, and the more people that understand what's going on, there's going to be 10,000 podcasts or 100,000.
Yes.
We're just going to overwhelm them. And so thanks for doing what you do. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you all for joining with us on this journey and holding space for us and witnessing our process as we continue to ascend the matrix. And I'll see you all next time.